Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to Zoella and industry. This video is going to be particularly useful for you if you are doing the EDUCAS exam board for A-level, because Zoella appears as one of the optional online media texts on the component 2 paper. However, I know that Zoella does appear, and indeed other bloggers and vloggers do appear on other specifications as well, so keep listening because a lot of this information is going to be relevant to you anyway. It's been a couple of years since I've taught Zoella as a set text for A-levels, so a massive thanks needs to go to a media studies teacher called Michael Bush, who is a lecturer at Bournemouth and Poole College in Dorset. He sent me a lot of very useful information for this video, so thank you very much to him. Now, the vlogging industry has really kind of blown up and exploded in the last 10 years with the domestication of technology that wasn't available to average people, 10, 20 years ago. Things like, video cameras, mobile phones, the ability to upload directly to YouTube via the apps on your phone and your computers. All of those technologies have become so easily available and free that pretty much anyone can now become a vlogger, as I have demonstrated. The impact of technology has been huge on this industry. The shareability of blogs, of YouTube, of Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and all the other social media platforms and sites means that someone like Zoella, who starts off on a kind of much smaller scale, can suddenly become a kind of millionaire within the space of a year or two. You can start reaching global audiences instantly across a variety of platforms, and that can expand your industry into something much, much bigger. When she first started out, her branding as a vlogger was all about her being relatable, the everyday girl next door. I've talked in my other Zoella videos about how she creates that representation, so it might be useful to check that video out. But it was very much, that was part of her brand. She wasn't a kind of glossy, perfect celebrity. It was all about being just, the average girl from next door. She would appear sometimes without her makeup on. She would mess up her line, or she would say something and stumble over her words. And that created this idea of her being just a kind of everyday girl, someone that a lot of the audiences could relate to. And they've had to try and retain that branding, despite the fact that she's obviously now become a much bigger celebrity. A lot of vloggers are taking advantage of MCNs, which are multi-channel networks. These are companies which basically act as a middleman between vloggers and brands. So instead of vloggers having to individually go out and make contact with companies wanting to advertise or sponsor them, an MCN will do that for them, and they will take part of the profit for that. So a lot of MCNs will take around 30% of the profit from a deal or a sponsorship contract, and they will help to formulate those deals and publicise them. Now, Zoella used to belong to the Style Hall Network, which is an MCN. Style Hall Network was a place where lots of vloggers who were kind of into fashion, makeup, hair, etc., were all being publicised together on YouTube. It was quite new at the time. Not a lot of vloggers were doing it, and Zoella was one of the first ones to join up with a community of other vloggers doing the same thing. And that cross promotion of other people that are doing a similar product to you, making similar content, was a really great way of widening your target audience. MCNs can also help you with things like production. So for example, the Style Hall Network, people who belong to them and make content with them, for them, they get help with their production, with their costs. So they have studios, they have cameras, they have creative employees, and they can help you make specific videos for brands or companies. So it can be a really great way of increasing your profit and also increasing the production quality and value of your videos. Because online media is now so easily monetized, it becomes something that almost takes over, and the monetization changes the purpose of so many people's vlogs. So it's a case of her thinking very carefully, I suppose, about you know, how she represents herself, the structure of her content, what she's posting about, and that's all influenced by the deals that she does, whether it's with brands or companies or for individual products. So it does change, I think, the media language that she uses, because she has to be so concerned now about how she can monetize that content. Hesmond Haug suggests that to be successful, a producer or a company shouldn't try to come up with something totally new, but should be looking at what is already existing and successful and replicating those formats. And that's exactly what Zoella has done. She has taken her main YouTube channel and branched off with another YouTube channel called More Zoella, which is the behind the scenes stuff, so not just the fashion and beauty and makeup, but now it's behind the scenes, watching her at home, her relationship with Alfie, and so finding a way of getting more views based on an already existing successful format. Advertising across many other industries, like the magazine industry, the newspaper industry, you know, has been plummeting in the last kind of 10 years because those industries are going down. Not many people are actually buying print magazines anymore. And advertising was such a big part of those products that brands now have had to find other ways to advertise, and online advertising, digital advertising, has gone up massively. In fact, digital adverts in the last 10 years have nearly doubled. So, you know, they've had to find a way, I suppose, brands and companies have had to find a way to take advantage of the people online that are really popular, and so vloggers has been the natural place to go for that. Many brands now do deals, partnerships, sponsorships with people like Zoella, you know, to get their products seen by so many audiences. I mean, just look at how many followers Zoella has on some of her channels. They can easily reach such a massive consumer fan base that vloggers are a very common sense way now of advertising products. They still have to be quite careful though. There are rules and regulations that do govern advertising online. So the Advertising Standards Authority is the regulatory board for adverts, and that is adverts in all forms, in magazines, in newspapers, on TV, you know, but it also includes digital adverts online. And there are rules that Zoella and other vloggers have to follow. You know, they have to make it clear if it is a paid promotion. They should be using a hashtag, so something like spon or sponsored, or like paid for promotion, something to make it clear that they have been paid to say what they're saying. And, you know, for the most part, they do try and follow these rules. Many vloggers are very concerned about if they break the rules, they could be fined, they could lose followers, or worse, YouTube and other sites might demonetize their videos, which would be truly traumatic, because then how are they going to make their money? However, there are vloggers that do get around this sometimes. There are vloggers, including Zoella, who have been in trouble in the past for not making paid promotions clear enough. And they have been pulled up by people like the Advertising Standards Authority for perhaps, and particularly because they've got such a young target audience, influencing their target audience and almost pulling the wool over their eyes by talking about products as though they are, you know, desirable must-have items, and in fact, you know, they've just been paid to talk about them. Now, whilst the ASA is responsible for regulating adverts online, there isn't another regulatory body that is responsible for governing the internet or social media. There's a general lack of regulation, and in fact most sites just self-regulate. So things like YouTube, you know, they just have their own rules about what you are and aren't allowed to do. Have a think about times when you have been online, whatever social media platform you use, and times when you know you have seen content that is not allowed, whether that is nudity or drugs or adverts or, you know, swearing, offensive material, hate speech. It does happen, and the problem is, I suppose, because of the vast scope of the internet, you know, billions of users posting billions of posts all day, every day, it's impossible for those social media sites to regulate it before it goes online. So they rely on audiences, they rely on you guys to report what you see. And it's, you know, it does work in some cases. If you report what you see online, the company or the person never finds out who it was that reported it. So it is anonymous. And it has been being promoted, you know, more in the last few years so that more young people in particular know that they can report content online. The problem is that the self-regulation, the allowing audiences just to report what they see when they see it, if it's inappropriate, means that somebody's already seen it. It's already been online, you know, and certainly with things like live streaming, it means that inappropriate or offensive or traumatic content could end up online instantly and be seen by billions of people before it's reported and taken down. So the damage is already done. And some vloggers have been in trouble for things that they've posted online. If you look at people like Logan Paul, you know, and various other vloggers, even Zoella has been in trouble before for posting homophobic comments on her Twitter page. And obviously they've now since been taken down and she's had to issue an apology. But that content is still there. The nature of the internet means that our digital footprint is always out there. You can't erase it. You can't get rid of it. So, you know, Zoella is always going to be plagued by the history of some of the things. You can still Google and find the content that, you know, people thought was more controversial that she's since deleted. Her family-friendly brand was further harmed in 2014 when she posted a vlog on YouTube of herself whilst she was driving. And a lot of people, including the police, actually basically came out with statements saying how dangerous it was and that it was incredibly silly to do, particularly with her young fan base. So she does have to be very, very careful about the brand image that she is portraying in case it harms her in terms of either her reputation or even worse in terms of her monetization. So online vloggers and bloggers need to be quite careful because they're always worried about causing bad publicity. They don't want to lose their sponsorship deals. They don't want to lose the monetization on their videos. So all in all, vloggers try and remain quite family friendly, and you will see that with the vast majority of Zoella's posts. Her and Alfie avoid swearing. They constantly, you know, they will cut their videos or they will you know, they don't even bleep it out. It's the idea that they just don't do it because they don't want to cause controversy, particularly because their target audience is young. You know, it needs to feel quite sanitized content. So, you know, it's very kind of friendly and informal, and they never really cover anything particularly controversial because they're always trying to think about appealing to the widest possible audience and avoiding being demonetized. It's very obvious now that Zoella is not just an independent producer. It's no longer just her with her mobile phone or a video camera in her bedroom. She has a team of people working for her. She's set up her own company called A to Z Creatives along with Alfie. And they're actually based in an office in Brighton. And there's a whole team of people there whose job it is to work as kind of agents for successful vloggers like her and Alfie. So Zoella has her own personal manager that works at that office, and the manager's job is there to deal with brand partnerships, deals, publishing products that she's going to get involved in. She has her own social media manager there who's literally there to manage all of her kind of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. She also has her own creative producer who's there to create all the images and graphics for Zoella's channels. Zoella did get in some trouble in 2020 during the COVID pandemic when the UK government offered to pay for staff who were affected by the pandemic to be furloughed. And that meant that the UK government would be paying 80% of the salary owed to an employee if they couldn't work during the pandemic. And it was discovered that Zoella's office manager, who was previously earning around £25,000 a year, had been furloughed, and that Zoella was claiming that money back from the UK government, you know, which she had a legal right to do. But people were saying, you know, she is clearly a multi-millionaire, and did she really need to claim that money from the UK government when she could have quite easily paid that salary herself? So she got in quite a lot of trouble in the media, in the press, online, people saying that she was taking advantage of the government scheme, and she did have to apologise publicly for that. Because Zoella is obviously a monetized person, she's a business now essentially. And while she started off as a kind of vlogger for her own benefit, it turned very rapidly into a business. And you can see that in the development of things like her website. The restyling of her website more recently has very much become more of a brand, you know, and Zoella now is referred to as we on a lot of her social media channels. So it's posting almost as though she is a brand rather than an individual person. And that is just a kind of reflective of the fact that she is now so monetized that she's almost lost her individuality. There's a huge push on selling and profit, so constantly talking about her merchandise and advertising that to friends, constantly doing vlogs about her products and her advent calendar and her, you know, makeup brands and her deal with Boots, constantly talking about things that the audiences can buy and where they can buy them from. And that is because you have to have these other aspects of revenue. Now, many vloggers have to diversify. It cannot just be about vlogging anymore. Monetizing your vlogs is a great way of making money, but if you diversify into other areas, you can make even more. One of the other things Zoella has done to diversify and make extra profit is she's turned to publishing. She wrote a book called Girl Online a few years ago, and it was actually the fastest selling debut novel by any author of all time. Unfortunately, a few months later, it was discovered that Zoella had a ghostwriter on the book, which means that it wasn't actually her that wrote it at all. It's her name that's on the book and somebody else wrote it for her. And she came under quite a lot of fire in the press when people discovered that, and she did have to issue a statement to say that she had another writer help her, but that she said it was just help because she's not a kind of a professional author, but she has gone on to write other books since then, most recently releasing a book in 2020, which has also done very, very well in the charts. So there's a whole range of items that Zoella has now been part of producing, and her brand and her companies involved have helped her to produce. And that is all because diversification helps to protect your brand and make you even more money. A way that brands can help to strengthen their fan base is to do collaborations with other vloggers or celebrities, and you will see Zoella constantly doing vlogs with other vloggers. So whether that is with Alfie or whether that is with her family or friends that happen to also be vloggers, she will do lots of collaborative videos where they kind of get together and chat, and that is because they can kind of tag each other. It can appear on different people's channels, and that will hopefully bring in an even wider audience as well. So collaborations are a good way of broadening your target audience. Obviously, with profit being so important, what your audience thinks is all important, because if they don't like it, you're not going to make money. And there have been incidents where Zoella has come under quite a lot of scrutiny. So for example, the advent calendar that was created as a piece of merchandise for her a few years ago was really kind of built up on her vlogs as being something brilliant. You know, she kind of demonstrated some of it and she was really encouraging her fans to buy it. It was a crazy amount of money for an advent calendar. And when audiences purchased it, they were so disappointed by the contents of the advent calendar. There were so many complaints online, and you can still find those on YouTube. And it's that idea that you, as a brand, you really have to consider what your audience want and what they will be satisfied with. And if there is a problem, if there are complaints, you just have to find another way of building up that trust again, because, you know, just a small number of complaints can lead to really big issues with your profits. Zoella has also taken part in several conventions, fan conventions, where she can sell tickets so that fans can come and meet her. She takes part in question and answer sessions. She can do autograph signings there as well. She has regularly attended VidCon, which is one of these conventions for vloggers, people who would like to meet celebrity vloggers. She also organised a convention along with some of her vlogger friends called Hello World Live, which was specifically supposed to be for people wanting to meet vloggers like Zoella, Alfie, Tanya Burr, etc. It got really bad reviews in the press though, people just saying it was not worth the ticket price. But it just goes to show you how much they can charge for some of these events, and there are people who will pay to attend them. The theorists Curran and Seaton do say that media industries are often always about profit and power, and certainly I think that we've demonstrated in this video that she does do a lot of things that are all about profit and power. However, there are some things that she has posted online which some people could look at and say are about other things other than profit and power. She's done quite a lot of work into mental health and anxiety. She's posted quite a lot about her own anxiety and mental health issues, and she's worked with a lot of mental health charities as well, raising awareness and money. She also took part in the Band-Aid song, which she was released to raise money for Ebola in African countries. And that did quite well in terms of raising funds and awareness for charity. She also took part in the Comic Relief Bake Off competition and won in that particular year as well, so raising quite a lot of money for comic relief. Although some cynical people might say that all of these projects were a way of just raising awareness and publicity for herself. So that was my easy to understand guide to Zoella and online media industries. If you would like to subscribe, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There's lots of other videos that I'm going to be posting relevant to A-level media studies. And you can also comment below if there are any videos that you would like that I don't already have.